The stars were calm that night, silent ocean of light above the dark side of Earth, far beyond the moon's cold shadow. Something moved slow, graceful, and shining like gold. It was not a meteor, not a satellite. It was a capsule, no bigger than a human car, drifting toward the blue planet. Deep inside it, strange symbols glowed softly, like they were alive. When Earth's telescopes caught sight of it, every scientist on the planet stopped to look. It was not dangerous, at least not on the scanners. It's no radiation, no weapons, just a message. The capsule entered the atmosphere without burning up. People across the world watched as a golden light fell from the sky and landed in the Pacific Ocean. Within hours, the Navy pulled it out of the water, carefully placing it in a sealed glass chamber. Scientists from many nations gathered around it, each wondering who had sent it and why. After 3 days of study, the symbols were decoded. The words were simple, almost too simple. We wish to speak with your leaders. We seek peace. There were no threats, no demands. It's just an invitation. The message came from a race calling themselves the Zerathians. Their ships, they said, would arrive in 4 weeks. They promised they would come unarmed, bringing only words. The United Earth Council met in secret to decide what to do. The scientists were excited, dreaming of exchanging knowledge with a peaceful alien race. But the military officers were not smiling. No one knew these Zerathians. No one knew what they truly wanted. And in space, trust could be deadly. In a hidden base in the Nevada desert, a massive ship was prepared. It was the pride of Earth's fleet, a battleship called the Resolute. Longer than 5 city blocks, covered in armor that could survive the heat of a sun, armed with weapons powerful enough to shatter a moon. It had never been sent on a mission like this. To the scientists, sending such a ship felt like pointing a gun at someone offering a handshake. But to the military, it was simply being ready. The day of the arrival came. People filled streets, parks, and rooftops, staring at the sky. The first Zerathian ships appeared as silver drops in the blackness of space, moving with a slow, gentle motion. They looked nothing like human warships. They had smooth curves, glowing blue patterns along their hulls, like moving rivers of light. In the United Nations headquarters, world leaders watched the feed from orbit. For a moment, it seemed like history would turn toward peace. Then a shadow passed over the alien fleet. It was the Resolute. Human battleship moved into position. Above Earth, its dark armor swallowing the sunlight. It was enormous, a mountain of steel in the sky. Compared to it, the Zerathian ships looked small and fragile. From their bridge, the alien envoy saw gun batteries the size of towers, missile silos that could open in seconds, and rail cannons that could pierce a planet's crust. They had come unarmed. Humanity had come ready for war. The Zerathians sent a transmission at once, their voices calm but uneasy. "Why have you brought weapons to a meeting of peace?" Their faces appeared on the human monitors, tall, thin beings with soft silver skin and deep black eyes that seemed older than the stars. But their calm expressions trembled slightly. On the Resolute's bridge, Captain Hayes stood at the center, hands folded behind his back. He stared at the alien faces for a long moment before speaking. His voice was even polite. "We received your message," he said. "We are here to listen." But his tone carried something else, something colder. The ship's weapons stayed armed, their targeting systems quietly watching every alien vessel around the world. People could feel the tension through the screens. This was the first meeting between humanity and another intelligent species. And already the air was heavy with suspicion. In the control rooms deep underground, military officers spoke in low voices. Satellites tracked not just the alien fleet, but the space far beyond it. Something else was out there. Something moving. The Zerathians had not told Earth everything the moment stretched. The Zerathians looked at the massive human ship, then back at each other. The silence between the two sides was long, almost unbearable. In the crowd-filled streets, children clutched their parents' hands. News anchors spoke softly, as if raising their voices would break something fragile. Somewhere in the black distance beyond the Zerathians, a faint signal pulsed in Earth's deep space sensors picked it up. The officers on the Resolute saw it too. They didn't say a word. Captain Hayes kept his eyes on the aliens. His voice, when it came, was quiet but firm. "Tell us your story," he said. But inside his mind, he already knew this meeting was not just about peace. The humans had not come to talk. They had come to see, to measure, to decide. And far beyond the friendly faces of the Zerathians, something in the dark was coming closer. The first words between humanity and the Zerathians had been spoken. But the real conversation, the one made of steel and fire, had not yet begun. The alien faces on the hologram flickered slightly as the Zerathians began to speak. Their voices were soft, almost musical, and each word was carefully chosen. They told of their home, a vast ocean world with floating cities of crystal and light. For centuries, they had known only peace. Disputes between their people were settled with debates, not weapons. They had traveled the stars to learn to meet other minds and to build friendships that spanned galaxies. Then, they said, came the predators. They did not speak the predators' name at first. They only described them creatures without mercy, with ships like black knives cutting through the void. The predators took worlds, stripped them of life, and moved on.
Ow.
No one had ever stopped them. The Zerathians had fled their own home, scattering their people across the stars. Now, with nowhere left to run, they had turned to Earth. They had hoped humanity's wisdom could help them find another way, a way without bloodshed. On the bridge of the Resolute, Captain Hayes listened without moving. His eyes were fixed on the alien envoys, but his mind was elsewhere. In the corner of the screen, a small tactical display blinked with a warning only he and his officers could see. The deep space sensors had confirmed it. Unknown contacts were moving at high speed toward the meeting point. The signatures matched nothing friendly. Hayes kept his expression calm. The Zerathians didn't need to know yet. Your story is tragic. Hayes said evenly when they had finished. We understand why you seek allies. His words were polite, but they felt like they were being measured, weighed. The Zerathians waited for him to say more, to speak of peace or of help. Instead, he simply folded his hands behind his back and looked toward the viewing window. Outside, the curve of Earth glowed blue and white against the black sky. In a quiet operations room, deep inside, the Resolute officers spoke in short, clipped sentences. The Predator's fleet was large, moving fast, and would be within striking distance in hours, not days. They hadn't expected the enemy to arrive so soon. One of the officers leaned closer to Hayes and whispered, "They're using the Zerathians as bait." "Sir, they're coming for us too." Hayes gave no sign he'd heard. Instead, he stepped closer to the hologram, studying the Zerathian leader, a tall figure with eyes like polished glass. "You came to us unarmed," Hayes said. "That took courage or trust, or both. But there is something you should know. In our history, trust has been the fastest way to the grave." The Zerathian leader tilted his head slightly. "Are you telling us we made a mistake?" he asked Hayes aloud, the faintest of smiles, though it held no warmth. "I'm telling you," he said, "that in this part of space, survival rarely comes from good intentions alone."
How?
There was a pause. One of the younger Zerathians leaned forward. "Then why are you here? If you did not come to talk, what did you come to do?" The captain's gaze shifted toward the stars beyond their ships. "We came," he said quietly, "to find out who your enemies are." For a long moment, no one spoke. The alien delegation seemed unsure whether to feel relieved or afraid. In the silent gap between words, the soft hum of the Resolute's engines filled the air, steady and unshaken. Far away, the Predator's ships continued their silent approach, like wolves closing in on prey that had not yet seen them, and somewhere deep inside the human battleship, weapon systems that had been idle for months began to stir. The lights on the bridge of the Resolute dimmed slightly as the tactical display grew brighter. Red icons marked the approaching fleet, their positions updating every few seconds. They were still far beyond visible range, but their speed left. No doubt they were coming straight for the meeting point. The bridge crew moved with quiet precision, their voices low, their hands gliding over glowing panels. To anyone watching from the outside, the human battleship looked perfectly calm. Inside, every system was waking up. In the hologram feed, the Zarathians spoke again, trying to explain the danger in more detail. They called the enemy the Skarn. They said the Skarn didn't conquer planets, they consumed them. They tore apart worlds, pulled their cores into giant furnaces, and left only drifting dust behind. The Zarathians' own homeworld was gone, a hollow shell where oceans had boiled away into space. The aliens' voices wavered as they spoke, their dark eyes heavy with memory. Captain Hayes listened, but the words didn't change what he already knew. Intelligence reports had warned the Skarn were expanding toward human space. If they reached Earth, there would be no negotiating, no surrender, only destruction. This meeting was never just a diplomatic experiment. The moment the Zarathians asked for help, the military had seen it for what it was, an early warning. Hayes stepped closer to the viewing glass at the front of the bridge. Beyond the armored window, the silver shapes of the Zarathian vessels drifted peacefully, their glowing patterns slowly shifting in the darkness. He could see no weapons on them, no sign they could fight back. They were explorers, not warriors. That, more than anything, told him the truth. The Zarathians weren't here to form an alliance. They were here because they had no other choice. In the operations pit below, Commander Vance's voice was steady, but urgent. Predator fleet, accelerating. ETA, for hours. Composition, 36 confirmed warships, unknown number of escorts. They're running hot, sir. The crew knew what that meant. The Skarn weren't hiding. They wanted to be seen. They wanted their prey to feel fear before the kill. Hayes turned back to the alien leader on the hologram. You didn't tell us they were this close? He said the Zarathian's expression shifted, shame flickering across his silver features. If we had told you, would you have agreed to meet us? Hayes didn't answer immediately, simply looked at the alien for a long moment before saying, maybe, but you'd have met us somewhere very different. Out deep in the battleships. Lower decks, engineers began sealing bulkheads and powering the primary reactors to full capacity. Massive cannons along the ship's hull adjusted their aim, tracking invisible targets far beyond human sight. In the launch bays, automated drones rolled out of storage, their black surfaces reflecting the dim red light of combat readiness. The Resolute had been built for one purpose, and that purpose was coming. Vance stepped up beside Hayes, lowering his voice. Orders, sir? The captain's eyes stayed on the hologram. Hold position. Keep weapons primed but cold. Let them come. The Zarathian leader looked uneasy. You mean to fight them here? Hayes's voice was calm, but his words carried steel. If they're foolish enough to come this close, I'll make sure they never forget why that was a mistake. Outside, the stars remained silent. But the dark between them was shifting as if something vast was moving through it. The Skarn were coming, and the Resolute was waiting. The first sign of the Skarn fleet was not sight, but shadow. Stars in a small section of the sky simply vanished, swallowed by shapes that blotted out the light. Then, one by one, the enemy ships emerged from the darkness, their hulls jagged and uneven like pieces of black stone sharpened into weapons. They moved without grace, built for function, not beauty. The sight of them made the air on the bridge feel heavier. From his command chair, Captain Hayes watched the tactical display fill with red. 36 warships, exactly as the sensors had predicted, but now their escorts could be counted as well, more than twice that number. They flew in a wedge formation, like the tip of a spear aimed directly at Earth. The Skarn didn't slow down when they saw the Zarathian ships. They didn't even acknowledge them. Their focus was on the human battleship standing in their path. The Zarathians sent a hurried transmission to the Resolute. You must leave, their leader urged. They will destroy you. We have seen them do it before. Hayes didn't answer right away. His eyes remained on the enemy ships, reading every movement. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, almost quiet. That's the problem with predators. They think the hunt always ends the same way. The Skarn fleet broke formation, smaller. Attack craft surged forward, engines burning with a cold blue flame. On the bridge, Commander Vance's hands moved quickly across the controls. "They're locking weapons," he reported. Hayes didn't give the order to fire. Instead, the Resolute drifted forward, slowly, deliberately, until it placed itself between the Zerathians and the incoming enemy. The battleship's hull lights came alive, flooding the black with white and gold. The massive cannons rotated into position, the hum of the reactors deepening into a low, steady growl. The Skarn hailed them at last. A deep, distorted voice filled the speakers, the words sharp and cold. "Human vessel, leave this system. Prey is ours." Hayes leaned forward in his chair, resting his elbows on his knees. "You've made a mistake," he said evenly. "This isn't your hunting ground." For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then the Skarn replied, their tone dripping with contempt. "We will kill you first, then take what we came for." Hayes straightened, his face unreadable. "You're welcome to try." The first shot came from the Skarn, a beam of searing energy that streaked toward the Resolute. The human ship didn't move. Instead, the beam struck an invisible wall, scattering into harmless sparks. The defensive field shimmered briefly, then vanished again into nothing. Hayes rose to his feet. "Weapons hot," he said. The bridge erupted. Into motion. Rail cannons roared, their projectiles crossing the void faster than sound could travel in air. Guided missiles streaked from their launch bays, splitting into smaller warheads mid-flight. The Skarn's front line shattered instantly, ships breaking apart, fire spilling into space. The Predators didn't slow. They came on harder, desperate. To close the distance, through it all, the Resolute held the line. Hayes didn't shout, didn't rush. His orders came calm and precise, each one turning the battle further in humanity's favor. Behind them, the Zerathians watched in stunned silence. They had expected a desperate defense, a hopeless last stand. Instead, they were witnessing a lesson, one written in steel and fire. The Predators had come expecting easy prey. What they found was something far more dangerous, and the fight had only just begun. The void burned with wreckage. Pieces of Skarn, ships drifted in slow spirals, their twisted hulls still glowing from the heat of impact. Fires flickered briefly in the vacuum before dying into cold embers. The Predator fleet, once a solid wall of black steel, was now broken into scattered fragments. The few remaining warships limped backward, their formations shattered, their weapons silent. On the bridge of the Resolute, the noise was not of celebration, but of steady work. Status reports flowed from every console: shield strength, ammunition count, reactor output. Hayes stood at the center, his uniform untouched by the chaos, his eyes fixed on the fading red marks on the tactical display. He gave no sign of satisfaction. Victory was only real when the enemy was gone. The Zerathian leader's voice came through the coms, quiet but filled with disbelief. "You destroyed them. We have never seen anyone stand against the Skarn and survive." Hayes turned toward the hologram, his face calm. "You asked for words," he said. "But there are some enemies words will never reach. When they come to your door, you don't invite them in. You make sure they never come back." The alien envoy said nothing, but his dark, ancient eyes seemed to search Hayes's face for something, perhaps mercy, perhaps warning. The captain gave him neither. On the forward screen, the last Skarn ship turned away, its engines flaring as it fled. Into the dark, no pursuit order was given. Hayes let them go, knowing they would carry a message far more powerful than a destroyed fleet. Somewhere in the Predators' war councils, the story of this day would be told, of a single human battleship that stood in their path and did not break. Silence returned to the bridge. Beyond the armored glass, the stars seemed bright again, their light no longer drowned by the shadow of the enemy. Earth hung below, untouched, its oceans still blue, its clouds still white. The Zerathian ships drifted closer, their glowing patterns pulsing in slow, steady waves, a sign of respect. In their culture, the envoy's voice came one last time, softer than before. Perhaps humanity is the ally we have been searching for. Hayes's expression did not change, but his words carried weight. We are not allies yet, but you know where to find us. Without another word, he gave the order to stand down from battle readiness. Weapons powered down, shields relaxed, and the hum of the engines softened. The Resolute turned slowly toward the Earth, its massive frame moving with the quiet confidence of something that had faced the worst the galaxy could throw at it, and smiled back. Far behind them, in the endless dark, the Skarn fled. They had come for prey. They had found something else entirely.